Okay, in today's session, we will get along with the remaining topics. That is two main topics, that is calculus, then numerical methods and statistical methods. Three different topics we'll be learning over two sessions. In today's session, I will discuss with regard to calculus part, that is specifically integration, mainly focusing on to the Laplace transforms, then to the numerical methods and some problems, strategies that you can adopt to solve the problem under these topics. In tomorrow's session, I will speak about statistical methods. So one session on statistics exclusively, because you can expect more number of problems in statistics rather than these topics. One or two questions you may come across these topics. So let me move on to the topic of today's interest, that is calculus. So in my previous class, I have explained you how to find out the maxima and minima. So you have a first derivative. If you differentiate the given equation and you take a derivative, that is dy by dx, and you set it to 0, so you get to know the value of x at that point of x. If the second derivative is less than 0, you can have a local maxima, or if it is greater than 0, then it is minima. If it is equal to 0, if the second derivative is 0, we call it a saddle point. You can see it on the graph here. Saddle point means there is no minima, no maxima. That's the meaning. If it is non-zero value, then there should be a maxima or minima possibilities there for the second derivative. So this way you will identify whether there is a minima and maxima, one thing, and by solving for the value of x at that point using the first derivative equated to 0, you can identify that point, and at that point you can tell whether there is a maxima or minima. So these kind of problems you can expect this maxima and minima related. So that's the usual sequence. And we have also discussed about the series, specifically the series related to summation, that is the what is the sum of that, or whether it converges or diverges. So based on that, you can expect some one or two questions. One question usually it will be there, convergence and divergence. So I had given you an example in the previous session. I had told you the strategy. There are there may be equations. If you go through the set of equations to sum it up, you may end up with a large set of equations. How you, I mean, because different series have different set of equations, so you may not be able to remember everything. Instead of that, make strategy. That's very important. If you understand the strategy or concept, looking at the equations that are given, so if you are able to rebuild them one within the other, you do not require any equation to do the calculation. So for this number series, to calculate the sum of it, there may be equation. You may come across an equation that gives you an equation kind of thing where you can substitute some values and you end up with the sum. Like that, you have n number of equations. So you cannot sit and learn or remember each and every possible method. So for that reason, here in this, I taken one example and I told you how logically you can break down the equation and rearrange them so that you get the required answer. So most of the questions in GATE, the strategy is important rather than the equations or the some standard equations that are behind it. Okay, so that's why my focus is mainly on the strategy rather than conceptual explanation, because if you go behind conceptual explanation, the time is insufficient. You may not be able to learn everything, and you may not get it also, right? So best is strategy. Next, yeah, Laplace transform. From here I will start today's session. So by definition, Laplace transforms a conversion method. Remember, it is a conversion method so that your integration becomes easier. So it is a predefined integral forms. That's why it's called as integral transform. So the Laplace integral, whenever you use it, it's called as integral transform. So if you want to integrate some variable starting from 0 to infinity, most important thing you need to know is Laplace transform is applicable for a range or the domain value, or you can say limit 0 to plus infinity. Remember, it is 0 to plus infinity. So beyond 0, that is lower than 0, that is 0 to minus infinity, it is 0. Laplace transform is not applicable. So Laplace transform of any variable before 0, 0 to minus infinity is 0 itself, right? So otherwise not defined other way around. So you do not calculate less than 0 limit. So at 0, Laplace transform starts. Are you aware of one more type called as Fourier transform? Fourier transforms, yes or no? So if you know about Fourier transforms, it is minus infinity to plus infinity. Keep it in mind. Fourier transform and Laplace transforms looks equivalent. Conceptually, they are same. So you're going to make an integral transform or differential transform using Fourier or Laplace transforms. But the thing is the limit. Limit for Fourier transform, it is minus infinity to plus infinity. So the whole range is used. Whereas Laplace transforms, it is only 0 to plus infinity. And usually it is for a time domain. You can see T there. T stands for time. Okay, not for x-axis, not for y-axis. It is for the time domain. So that is why the process control systems where you use a time series, it's a time series that is used with respect to time. All the analyses are done. Process control, when we use it, why do we use that process control? We have some system running at a particular steady condition. All of a sudden some problem occurs. We call it as load or set point change, right? Some problem occurs at a t is equal to 0. So before t is equal to 0, it was proper, no issues at all. It was fixed value. At t is equal to 0, error appears. Now the corrective action should be done over the positive time interval. So that is why your Laplace transforms are commonly used in process control system. So that is positive 0 side, 0 to plus infinity in that domain. So before 0, what has happened in the past, it is not important in the Laplace transform, Laplace domain. So that is the reason why process control makes use of Laplace domains. So by definition, if you look at it, we write L, this symbol L, which is representing Laplace of f of t. F of t is the function which you would like to do the integration. The integration format looks like this: e power minus st. S is the Laplace variable, t is the time variable. Okay, it's a tau here. This is minus s tau, tau s actually. So time constant tau. So it is f of t into dt. Sorry, in fact, it is supposed to be t. It looks like tau here. Okay. So it is e power minus st into f of t dt. So you have to integrate 0 to infinity. Now this integration, we call it as f of s. So this f of t is a function. Remember, it can be any function. F of t can be t square, 1 by t, ln t, sin t, cos t, right? This f of t could be any variable, any expression. So you would like to do the integration from 0 to infinity with exponential term along with that. So this particular format, we represent it as f of s. So there are predetermined derived terminologies how when you convert f of t and integrate in this format. The standard format of Fourier transforms are available, which I'm going to discuss for another few minutes. So let's take up one by one conceptual. Now this concept looks very simple, but better to understand this because your questions would be based on this. So if you know this concept, it will be easy for you to solve certain problems, because the problem when you read it looks complex for the reason that it is Laplace transform, but actually the solution has these concept imbibed in it. So just making use of this concept into that problem, you may be able to solve the problem. So the first one, there are 4 rules that have given to you here, properties you can say. So these 4 properties, basic ones, let us see it. Laplace transform of 0 is 0. So if you come across f of t is equal to 0, it is a Laplace transform that is 0. Second thing, it is summative. Summative in the sense you have 2 functions, f of t and g of t. So you have a sum or plus or minus, okay, the equation. So the equation can be broken down into 2 equations, f of t and g of t. In that case, Laplace transform of first equation plus or minus according to the sign here, Laplace transform of second equation. So you can break them separately. For example, this equation inside the Laplace transform of this equation, I'll give you an example. Laplace transform of x cube plus x square. In this x cube, I can call it as f of t. X square, I can call it as g of t. So it is x cube plus x square. So that is the equation I have, for which I want to find out the Laplace transform. What should I do? Laplace transform of x cube plus Laplace transform of x square. So I can break it down into two pieces, and the corresponding Laplace transform I can add it. Okay, so this is summative. And one more thing is constant. So it's a linearization, in fact. So the constant term, if there is a constant along with your function, for example, 2x square, 2x square, okay, x square is f of t, 2 is the constant. So that constant, you can bring it out. Here, you can see it. So it becomes 2 Laplace transform, 2 into Laplace transform of that x square. So that c constant can be brought outside. So this means the Laplace transform is linear. So always Laplace transforms are linear in nature. At the same time, you should not forget f of t into g of t. Okay, f of t into g of t is not equal to their individual product of their individual transform. This is wrong. Anybody knows what is this actually, I mean, what it is supposed to be? Not this. This is wrong. Instead, it's supposed to be something else. Is there any? I don't want the exact answer like which equation you have to use. I mean, there is a name for that. Anybody knows? Remember? There is a name for that particular transformation method. Actually, it is. Heard about something like this? Heard about convolution integrals? Convolution integral, convolution transform, convolution integral. Convolution theorem starts from there. Then convolution integral, it leads to convolution transform. Yes or no? Heard about it? You can learn through that. I don't have the detailed explanation available over here. Okay, so those who are interested can go through this convolution integral. Basic concept is sufficient. I not given here. So this ends up with the convolution theorem. Okay, convolution theorem or convolution integrals. Then a derivative of Laplace transforms. Derivative, that is in the forward direction. You can go in the differential form. So it is actually giving you f of s. All these terms will give you end up with f of s. Whereas Laplace transform reversal, if you give this derivative. So if you come across some terms like this, left two functions minus t into f of t. T is a variable. F of t is the function. Okay, t is a variable into f of t. So for that is equal to f dash of s. That is derivative of, say for example, f of t. F of t ends with f of s. You have to differentiate it. You differentiate that equation with respect to s. That becomes f dash s. Okay. If Laplace transform of f of t is f of s, then Laplace transform of minus t into f of t, okay, will be equal to the differential first derivative of f of s, f dash s. For example, yeah, I given here one equation, such equation. So L of t, Laplace transform of t square, which you can write it as t into t. Okay, t into t, that is t into t. You can write like this. T is the variable and f of t is t itself. So Laplace transform of t is 1 by s square. Sorry, minus 1 by s square. Laplace transform of Laplace transform of t is 1 by s square. So that minus of t, it goes on the other side, minus of derivative. You will do minus of derivative of 1 by s square. 1 by s square is f of s for t. Okay, which we'll see in the next slide. So you'll be differentiating that if you have to multiply with the t here. Okay, t into f of t, if you come across this kind of equation, it will be derivative. This you may expect, this kind of thing. Simple function here. For this, you need the Laplace transform, which you have to differentiate. That shouldn't be a complicated one. So this kind of question you may come across possible. So some simple Fourier transforms based on the f of t values. F of t is given on this side, and Fourier transform of that is given on the other side. The red color indicates some significance here. So try to understand how it works. So you have, these are all process control functions. Okay, the graph what you see here, they are all process control function. In other word, we call it as triggering functions, triggers. Okay, those who have completed process control, you may be knowing fermented design and control topics. So with respect to that, I'll be telling you. So delta t, it's an impulse function. So if you have an impulse function delta t, the Laplace transform of that is 1. So what is impulse function? It is a sudden jerk. sudden rise is there. So till a particular time interval, there is no output at all. Output is zero. Suddenly at we call it as 0 minus and 0 plus, because it's the span is very few seconds. The span of this input is very few seconds. So instead of saying t is very difficult to mention, so that is why we mention it as t minus t plus. But actually this impulse happens exactly because our Laplace transform starts at 0, right? 0 to plus infinity. So that is why instead of t simply saying t, we say it as 0 minus 0 plus, representing at the 0 time interval 0, the input has taken place. Minus and plus, 0 minus 0 plus, because it's a small time interval within which this has happened, very small interval time. That is called as impulse. So if you want me to draw the shape of the curve, it is a spike. Okay, at a till t is equal to minus 0, that is 0 only. At t is equal to 0, there will be almost flat line. At a t is equal to 0, exactly at that point, there is a sudden uprise of the value. Then within few seconds, it will come down to 0, then moves. So in your analytical techniques, you might have come across spikes for HPLC and gas chromatographic results, right? Chromatogram, what you call. In chromatogram, if you observe, or even um, this one, what you call it as mass spectrometry. For mass spectrometry also, there are sudden spikes. Lines are there. Suddenly it moves up and it comes down, right? So those spikes are impulses. So till some value it is 0, suddenly it moves up and comes down, then again 0. So that is called as impulse. Okay, impulse inputs. So for impulse inputs, Laplace transform is 1. Then you have a constant uniform input. Okay, starting from t is equal to 0. The value here intersection is 0 only. So we call it as u of t. The function we call it as u of t. The value of that is 1. It's a constant uniform value. So for 1, the Laplace transform of 1, value 1 is 1 by s. Then you have a step input. At for some time there is no input at all. At some time a, after lapsing a time of a units, there is a sudden rise. Then there is a step continuous. This is called a step input. This is uniform input. This is called a step input. For a step input, look at the Laplace transform, how it works. It's called as ua of t, ua of t. So you since at a time interval a it is occurring, you have exponential term coming into picture. E power minus as. Okay, it's not simply e power s, it is minus a. Why? It is increasing. Look at this, it is increasing. It is always exactly the other way around. If it is increasing, it will be minus a. So e power minus a s into 1 by s, because 1 by s, because it is going continuously after some time, right? So that is 1. This particular 1 by s, it has come over here. After some time, it is increasing because of that exponential term. Okay. Now the next one, last one, uabt, means it is a pulse function. Pulse function means after some elapsing some time interval, at a there is a rise. It goes up to a certain value. That value remains constant for some time. Then it comes back to 0. So this is not a small interval of time. This is some sufficiently larger interval of time. Maybe some 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So larger interval of time. So a to b, and within that time it has remained constant over here. Now look at the Laplace transform of it. You don't have to remember it exactly as it is. Look at the concept. It has remained constant for a time, for some time, at 1, right? So the Laplace transform of 1 is 1 by s, and it has raised at a. For that it is e power minus a, exponential of s with the minus a coefficient. It has come down at b. Okay, it has come down at b. It is e power minus b power s. Okay, so it has gone up, it has come down. It is actually a vertical line. The vertical line moving up and down, it is e power minus a or e power minus b. Okay, exponential decay, because the response of that will be exponential decay in both the cases. So that is e power minus a, e power minus b. Since it has gone up here, it is positive. Since it has come down here, it is negative. The value of that is minus. The value of this is plus. Okay, because it is moving upward and this is moving downward. The difference between that, the time elapsed for doing this activity is b minus a, because a is smaller earlier than b. A is smaller than b in a time scale, right? So b minus a is positive. So it is b minus a in the denominator, right? So this is how the Laplace transform. This is only conceptual explanation I told you. but actually you have to use the pulse function or impulse function and do the integration and obtain this, which I have not explained to you, and not in the purview of learning conceptual strategies under gate or entrance examination point of view, where you do not have to explain the descriptive way how all this come. So only we need is understanding the concept. So because these questions can be asked in a a tricky way. Okay, tricky way. For example, I can ask you this same thing, same question in a tricky way. How do I ask it? I'll put 2 here. Okay, the red one what you see here, I'll put 2, and I'll give you this graph. Instead of A, I'll put 2. Instead of B, I'll put 3. Okay, here it is 2. Oh, sorry, let me take all 3 different numbers, not to confuse. The value of 1, instead of that, I'll give 2. A is equal to 3, B is equal to 4. Okay, 2, 3, 4. Now I'll ask you the Laplace transform of this function is 4 options I'll give you. Now you have to write this as the answer. So at that point of view, your strategy comes into picture. So this 2, remember 2 into 1, remember this, it is not just 2, it is 2 into 1. Laplace transform of, I'll go back by one slide. If you remember third rule here, right, 2x, you can write it as 2 into x, the 2 you can bring it out, right, constant rule. Now I'm making use of that. It is 2 into 1. For 1, Laplace transform is 1 by s. So into 2, the constant is 2 is there. That c is equal to 2, right? So 2 into 1 by s. So the Laplace transform of this one, or this particular part, is 1 by s. Now remaining I have to write. It is 2. It is 3 and 4. That is e power minus 3s minus e power minus 4s. 3 minus 2. That is 1. So I have to solve this, right? So you don't have to derive the equation or anything. The conceptually, if you remember it, how it has come, so you'll be able to write the Laplace transform. Now, what happens if you do not understood the, if you're not understood the concept behind it? If you have remembered some normal standard way of deriving, descriptive way, you will start doing all descriptive, and you may end up with the confusion. You may not complete it. You are wasting the time, as well as you may not end up with the correct answer also. That's also possible. But instead, if you are able to understand the logic behind how it has come, also how you can write the solution of it without doing the mathematical transformations, that's better. Okay, so that's why I'm teaching you in this strategy. Now some more are there. E power at, e power minus at. Okay, here there is a mistake. Okay, here there is a mistake. Actually, this is supposed to be minus a. So those who are checking it, please correct it. This is inverted. That is e power at is 1 by s minus a. E power minus at is 1 by s plus a. Okay, this is ulta. These two are supposed to be swapped. Okay, make a correction over here. It is 1 by s minus a, 1 by s plus a. Just invert this cross. I have taken it from some material. It's not typed by me. Realized recently that there is a mistake, and instead of correcting it, I'm just informing you. Then t power n, it is n factorial per upon s to the power n plus 1. S to the power n plus 1, n factorial. Then a combination of these two. You can see it. Last one is a combination, t power n, e power minus 8. Look at the combination, how it is done. T power n is written as n factorial by s power n plus 1. Same thing, n factorial by s power n plus 1. But e power minus 8 is the product here. For actually e power minus 8 is 1 by s minus a. Right? So that minus a comes along with the, sorry, s plus a. Sorry, this is s plus a. It goes with the s plus a. So that s plus a comes over here. Okay, s plus a comes over here. So that is n factorial per upon s plus a n power n plus 1. So there can be a combination of units. There can be combinations like this. With this combinations can be there. Carefully you have to combine them. So you can learn it in this way, combination of this. So some more are there, sine, cos, e powers. So let us look at the first two, sine and cos. For sine beta t and cos beta t, let me compare them together. Sine and cos, denominator is same, s square plus beta square. What is beta? It is a coefficient along with the time here. Okay, sine beta t, cos beta t. That beta value, whatever is there, that will come in the denominator as s square plus beta square plus or s square plus beta square. Same thing, denominator. But numerator, for sine it is beta, constant. This constant will come. For cos, the numerator variable s will come. S is a variable, don't forget it. S is the variable, Laplace variable. S is called as Laplace variable. The way you have t as the time variable earlier, right? Here, t is the, in this one, t is the time variable, s is the Laplace variable. Okay, so two variables are there. So now you can see that there are two combinations, exponential term and sine. Two combinations are there. I'll take sine, I'll write it. How do I write? Beta by s square plus beta square. Same way, beta by s square plus beta square. But s, when I write, variable when I write, a power, e power, I'll consider it. E power minus w is there. Minus ws, minus wt. Most probably it is minus wt here. Or at, sorry, minus 80, e power minus 80. If you can't read this, this is e power minus 80 into sine beta t. So that e power minus 80, I'll use it over here, s plus a. Instead of s square, I'll write s plus a square. Very similar to that cos beta t, if you see it. S is there in the numerator as well as denominator. So that becomes s plus a in the numerator and denominator. Instead of s, I'll replace it with the s plus a. Replace s, wherever you come across s over here, replace it with the s plus a. Why plus? It is e power minus. If it was e power plus 80, then you have to replace s with the s minus a. This is what I told you in the previous over here. Okay, I told you that there is an error here. So it will be s minus a and this will be s plus a. All right. So same logic flows over here also. So sine square 80 also I have given, but I doubt this kind of questions have never come, this kind of thing, but these simple ones have come, appeared earlier. Okay. So this is about the Laplace transform. In most of the problems that I have observed in under Laplace transform are just the conversions. A combination of equation is given. You are asked to write the Laplace transform, or they have asked which of the following is a Laplace transform of this. Okay. So, or reverse of it. Reverse in the sense, given 1 by s minus a or n factorial. Given this, what is the function f of t? The reverse way. So that have been asked. Okay. So if you come across any other questions equivalent to Laplace transform, you can put across a question, and later we can discuss on that. Okay, over the next few days. Whenever you come across any typical problem which is related to this Laplace transform and you are unable to solve and not belonging to this, bring it to my notice. We can discuss at the end. Okay, not now, not today. Some other time we can have a doubt session where we can compile all the things which you would like to know. Okay, now let me move on to probability and statistics. This I will take it in the next session. Today I won't take it, an entire series. So there are many things that I have to tell you because because of time constraint, for which I want to dedicate full 1.5 hours. I will not touch upon that. So now I'll touch upon the numerical methods. Under numerical methods, I'm going to explain you only two methods. There are many methods available, but I'm going to explain you two methods. One, trapezoidal rule, because very less number of questions have come under numerical methods. Not too many questions, very rarely they appear. Trapezoidal rule. Another one, Simpson's rule. In case even if you get it, you get an idea how to solve it. Okay, Simpson's 1/3 rule. There is one more 3/8 rule is also there. You can learn it. You already come across numerical methods, so you can use 3/8 rule and 1/3 rule. Another is trapezoidal rule. Now I'll explain you about trapezoidal rule, which is really helpful in most of the practical situations when you do the calculation on your own for certain things. Usually, this numerical integration, what we use it for the purpose of finding area under the curve. It to be precise, it is integral. Okay, so you see here an equation like this: integral of a to b, integral with the limit a to b, f of x dx. Means f of x is a function. You would like to integrate it from a to b. Now I'll put this in a graphical format. I'll put x-axis and y-axis. Okay, x-axis and y-axis I'll plot it. X-axis I'll mark it a and b, starting part and ending part, limit for x. Okay, this is the starting part, this is the end part, a to b. Within that boundary, how the f of x varies with respect to x. F of x is nothing but y, right? Y-axis value. F of x is equal to y-axis value. The value of f of x with respect to x, how does it vary? that is plotted using this curve. Black curve, what you see is f of x. Now, if you analyze it carefully, it is f of x into dx. In fact, it is integral. F of x into dx. How does it mean? F of x is y-axis. F of x is y-axis. Dx is nothing but equivalently delta x, means a small fraction of x. Dx or delta x, limits and continuity, dx or delta x is a small fraction of x. So to be precise, f of x, this upper length, and this small horizontal length, right, put together, when you multiply them, it is nothing but area under the curve. You take this a curve, area under this curve is given by the small segment. Integration means I'm adding, starting from A to up to B, all that segments I'm adding it. Okay, nothing but this area under the curve is represented by this integral form. So if I want to calculate the integral value, numerical value for this integral equation, given a curve, remember a curve is given. If the equation is given, you can easily do it. You have the linear methods. For example, integral of x squared dx. You know the method, right? X cubed by 3 you will write, and you will do the substitute the b and a value, you will calculate. But here in this case, you have numerical values. This f of x is not an equation, not available in the form of an equation. It is available to you in the form of a data values. Okay, so those who are done with the residence time distribution, RTD, or if you are done with the area under the curve, where do you get it? RTD, F curve, right? E curve, F curve, you get it. C curve, E curve. So you need to find out the area under the curve. So there you get all these things, right? You get it in the form of a curve, curvature. Curvature could be anything. It could be a straight line, inclined line, exponential, down, up, anything it is. It is just a representative black line. What you see, it's a representative curve. Now you would like to find out the area under the curve. To be frank, it is the integral value you want to find out. How do we do it? Now, each section, only for representative purpose, I have shown you big value, I mean like sets here. Okay, set is a big one, but actually you can shrink it, very small value. Lesser you shrink it, more number of sections you get, more additions you have to do. Bigger, it will be more accurate. That will be more accurate. Farther you take it, okay, you see small gaps here. Those are all errors. So you end up with the less number of calculation point of view, it will be less, but a lot of errors. Okay, so if this gap, a to x1 to x2, if this gap is very large, if you take a very large gap, there will be error, but calculation will be small, because you can see 1 2 3 4 5 6 segment you have to do the calculation. Whereas if you shrink this gap, a to x1, if you shrink it, okay, within this small section, if you have another 10 more subsections over here, number of calculation to be done over the segment, 10 here, some more here, like 100 segments are there possibly. All 100 calculation you have to do it. Calculation increases, but this error, small gap what you see here, that gap you may not see, so the error reduces. Okay, so now let us jump into the concept. Concept is very simple. As the name says, trapezoid. What do you mean by trapezoid? You have 4 corners, 4 sides are there, but the angle of that you are not defining it, whether it is 90 degrees, 60 degree, it could be any angle between the 2 lines. That's a trapezoid, but it has a 4 side, 4 corners. Okay, now this curve, let me put 2 vertical lines, that is a segment. Let me take a segment below the curve, a to x1. Otherwise I'll take it here, x3 to x4. It's already marked here, x3 to x4. Randomly let me take a segment. I'll put 2 lines. Now this particular curve, it is almost a straight line. If it is not, I'll draw a straight line. How do I draw a straight line? This point where the x3 meets the curve, where x4 meets the curve, those 2 points, keeping it as reference, I'll draw a straight line. You can see a small thin line here, which is a straight line. Okay, you can see that it has gone above the curvature, means there is a small error. There will be a small error when we do the calculation. Now required thing is, I want to find out area of that trapezoid. Okay, area of this trapezoid I want to find out. How do I calculate? Trapezoid width is fixed, constant width. You can see x3 to x4, that is x4 minus x3, delta x. Okay, which is constant at the base as well as at the height over here. Whereas the height over here, it is longer. For x3 it is a longer value, higher value. For x4, it is a smaller value, right? I know how to calculate area of a rectangle. Height into width, right? One side multiplied by the other side. That will be the area under the rectangle. So the width is fixed, x4 minus x3. Height I need. What do? Is I take the average of this value, x3, here, curvature, the y-axis value. The y-axis value over here, I'll take it. Y-axis corresponding to this value, which is nothing but the value of the curvature. To be frank, what is this value? It is the value of this curvature at x3. This is the value of curvature at x4. Okay. So these two values, I'll take the average. When I take the average, I'll hit the midpoint. I'll hit the midpoint. Okay. So the midpoint height, this is the height of the hypothetical rectangle. Width is delta x, right? Now you can see the equation here. Based on these two, I'll take the average. Half of fn corresponding to this value, fn plus 1 corresponding to this value. I'll take the two values, y-axis values, average it, that is my height, into width, that is this one, delta x, x4 minus x3. So this is for one segment. Like that, n number of segments are there. I have to add all the segments. All the segments, I have to add it. So that gives me the area under the curve. Is that clear to you, all of you, conceptually? So if you are given with the curvature, you should be able to break it into trapezoids. You should be able to calculate the area under the curve. So you don't have to remember the equation that is shown on the graph, the slide over there. Conceptually, you understand it. You are supposed to create trapezoid. Area below the trapezoid you are supposed to calculate. How do you calculate area below the trapezoid? It looks like a rectangle, but one side there it is angled. So if I take the average height of that is one side height, that is x3 height, that is fn, and fn plus 1. If I take those two heights and take the average of that will be the height of that hypothetical rectangle. In fact, it is trapezoid only. I'm just trying to cut it and make it a rectangle. Okay. Is that clear to all of you? So that area I'm trying to calculate. Likewise, there are many trapezoids. I just explained you one trapezoid. There are many trapezoids. All of that I will try to find out. Is that fine? Shall I go ahead? All right. So you can try it out with the values that you have. If you come across any such problems, you can try it out. This concept numerically, I don't know how long, because it is a lengthy problem for a entrance exam. How detailed, how simplified questions come, I'm not sure, because I've not seen any questions on particularly on this. If anybody comes across, let me know. Then Simpson's rule. Okay, here again it is used for estimating the area. It is numerically done, means you have a tabulated value. Earlier it is a graphical representation. Now it is just a numbers on paper, numerical method. Here you have equal interval between x1 to x2 x3. Interval between x's is same, h, we call it as h. Okay, so you have b minus a, that is integral. You can see here b minus a, starting with a and end with the b limit. Okay, b minus a, you divide into equal segments. That means h is the difference between each segment. Previous graph, if all were equidistant, all these vertical lines were equidistant, the distance between this, we call it as delta x here, would have been h. Meaning is this is h, delta x is h. But in this case, in this graph, if you look at it, all the segments are not same delta x. Delta x is varying. So this is not a good example for Simpson's rule. If all these lines were equidistant, h would have, delta x would have been same, which I could have called as h. Okay, so that's my explanation for h. So h by 3. Then you will add so many terminologies. How do I remember all these terminologies? If you look at it, it is a kind of mirror image, or you can say a series. Okay, first value and the last value are having the coefficient 1. Okay, first value and the last value are having a coefficient 1 here. Why not? And yn. N number of segments you have created, remember it. And this immediate next to one, it is 4, then 2, then 4, then 2. It is recurring. 4, 2 is recurring. 1, last one is 1. In between you have 4, 2, 4, like that. Okay, that's symmetry. And the number of ordinate y values is odd numbered, means you can have odd numbered terms within the bracket. Within the bracket you will have odd numbered terms. You will never have even numbered terms. You should have odd numbered one. Another thing you will observe is it is repetition. One, that is 1 4 2 4, like that. 4 2 4 will be there sequence. So if there were only 5 terms, it's odd number, right? Y values are odd. Y number of y's are odd. So there I can imagine 5 values. That's minimum actually. 5 values I can imagine. Y0, 4y1, 2y2, 4y3. 4 values are done, right? 1 2 3 4 values are done. Fifth value is y5. Sorry, y4. 4y3, then y4. Okay, so there will be only 5 values. If we have to include, then 2 more values, that is 7 values. 7 terms can be there. Next is 9, 11, like that. So you cannot have even numbered terms. So here a is the, in this one, b minus a, left hand limit and right hand limit. So a to b, that you can get it. Accuracy can be improved by increasing n. This is a key term here. So kind of objective type question, like let me say. So whether you can improve the accuracy, how to improve? So you can increase the n. N means the numbers, right? You can add more lines. In the last graphical explanation I told you, you can improve the accuracy of it by adding more lines in between, but your calculation increases, number of terms increases, right? But you will get more accurate. The errors are reduced, means accuracy will be more. Okay, so that you can do by increasing the segment. How do you increase the segment? Decrease the gap. Over here, decrease the gap, right? H you have to decrease. How to decrease H? Increase n. A and b you cannot touch. Limits, initial value, final value. You cannot touch b minus a. So you have to increase the n. As you increase the n, H will be reduced. Small h value. Lesser the h, more the number of terms. The terms will increase. Okay, calculation length will increase, but it will improve your accuracy. So this logical explanation or concept you should be able to understand. Okay, yeah, some tips while solving: use the logic, not merely learned equations what you see. Whether I'm audible now? Oh, okay. 1 second. Just a second. Okay, connected. Fine. Okay, so where I was page down. So some problems you can easily solve. You just require observation. So whenever you come to mathematics related problem, just don't leave it like that. It will not be complicated problem. Again, I'll repeat, it will not be a complicated problem. There will be a trick involved within it. Try to identify that trick. Very simple one. The minute you catch it, you will get the solution, and there will be only one solution. Okay. So that easily you can solve. Only thing is, observation is very important. Now, just to give you an idea, around 4 or 5 problems I have here. I'll You think about it. I will have polls on this for which will run for about 60 seconds. So you think about it. Once you thought about it, then I launch the poll. Don't answer in the chat box. So read through the question. Try to identify what could be the possible answer, or how you can solve it. At least that way. Just try to understand. I'll explain the problem first, then I'll open up the launch the poll. On your screen, you will see answer A, B, C, D. Again, you have the answers options A, B, C, D. Whichever you think the correct answer, you have to check it. Okay, all problems will go like that. So first, let me explain the problem, then some concept explanation, some concept, so that your thinking is in a particular way. So you can think it in a particular way. That way I'll try to explain the solution. Then I'll come back to the solution of it, how it is actually that's the correct answer. Okay. Um, this which is the correct answer. Even I don't remember. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So the graph of the function f of x, x by k1 x square plus k2 x plus 1 for x varying from 0 to infinity is, which is the correct graph in it is the question. There are 4 graphs A, B, C, D, which we can see, and they have marked some points on the x-axis. First one is 1 by k1 power 0.5, second one k1 by k2 power 0.5, third one k1 power k2 power 0.5, next is k1 by k2 power 0.5. Okay, so they have given one equation. So how that equation is plotted when x varies from 0 to infinity. So the lowest value you can see, leftmost value in each graph, origin 0, rightmost is infinity. Okay, on the x-axis. So let me project the poll. You will get about 1 minute, 60 seconds to answer. Look at the equation, look at the variation of the graph. Intention of having this poll is not uh, for any purpose like correct or wrong, just to get an idea like how does it look like. Your thinking process has to be aligned. Okay, so there are 5 students who have answered it, and only 1 student correct. Okay, 1 second, how to go out of it. Fine. So how does it work? So the answer is A. Okay, there is only 1 student who answered A. Now, how does the logic go? Look at this. I have given you a solution. Fast technique. Dy by dx differential. That is, you can see that in the graph, you have an equation. It is related to mathematics. It could be any one of the topic under mathematics. So there was a topic on maxima and minima, and you can see that the graph, 2 graphs here, it goes to maxima, and the point on the x-axis is given, which is exactly to that maximum point. So your mind should think in terms of maxima and minima now. Okay, so obviously there is highly possible, it's highly possible that it could be A and B. It is possible, not saying that it is correct. C and D also possible. So there is some maxima and minima involved in it. There is no question of maxima minima related in the question. Nothing is mentioned. Okay, let me try it out with the maxima and minima. For that, what should I do? I have to first make a first derivative, that is dy by dx, and equate it to 0. Then I have to solve for x, right? Then compare that value in the graph. Why? When I make dy by dx equal to 0 and solve at that particular value of x, there must be a minima or maxima for this particular curvature. There is a possibility. Okay. Now I'll make this way. I'll differentiate that equation. How do I differentiate? You can see that x is the variable which is present in the numerator as well as denominator. So if you remember d by dx of u by v, it is v du by dx minus u dv dx by v square. Okay. So let me not worry about the denominator v square, because I'm going to equate it to 0. dy by dx, I'm equating it to 0. So only the numerator is 0. Denominator multiplied by 0 is 0, right? So the denominator square, I'm getting it. If you look at that equation there, v square is the denominator. Anyways, I'm going to multiply it with the 0. Do not waste your time in squaring that denominator. Simply keep it square, v square. Don't touch it. We are not bothered about that. We are requiring only the numerator. Solve for the numerator. That is v du by dx minus u dv by dx. Here x is equal to u, denominator k1 x square plus k2x plus 1, that is v. Do that. So you can see that red colored and blue colored values there. Red colored value is the v du by dx minus the blue colored one, x is equal to u, dv by dx is 2k1x plus k2. Okay, so carefully write it, algebraically simplify it. You get minus k1 x square plus 1 is equal to 0. So rearranging it, you get x is equal to 1 by k1 power 0.5. Okay, 1 by k1 power 0.5. And observe the graph. All the graphs, you observe it. Okay, x-axis, there is only one graph with that x is equal to 1 by k1 power 0.5. That is A. Okay, one thing. Then exactly at that point, there is a maxima. Right? There is a maxima. So you can come to a conclusion that A could be the correct answer. This is just a logical way of doing it. Okay. So there are many things that you can do with mathematical calculation and find out, you prove, all those things you can do. But those are all descriptive. Don't waste time on those. So you end up with the correct answer here, one particular answer, and that's your answer. Right? So this is one type of problem where you don't require too many mathematical things, but you can get into. Okay, I think I have given you the answer also. So there is no question in making polling here. So this is a straightforward question. You can see all I'm showing is old gate questions. Okay, so it's a straightforward question. What is the question? You have to find out the eigenvalues. It's a matrix problem. You have to find out the eigenvalues of A. Matrix is given 1 minus 4, 2 minus 3. So 4 answers are given for eigenvector. So one of those 4 answers is the correct one. So how do I do it? A minus lambda A. I had told you, if you remember, majority of the time you end up with 2 into 2 matrix or 3 into 3 matrix maximum, not beyond that. Okay, here also you see that you have a 2 into 2 matrix, simple one, A minus lambda I. Simplify that, you get value of lambda, which is there in the problem, which is answer B, right? Answer B, minus 1 plus or minus 2i. So that answer is there. So let me move on to the next question. This is just to tell you that the questions are easy, not complicated. Third one. Here also I think I should have masked the answer so that I could have asked you. But anyways, let me see it in the next sessions onwards. Which of the following statements is true for the series given below? There is a series given. If you observe it carefully, okay, so observation is very important. That is like odd man out kind of thing, which may not be the answer. So first you discard them. First thing is always do the strategy. What may not be the correct answer, cancel it out. In Crorepati you have, right, that 50-50, all those kind of thing. Except phone a friend, you have almost everything here. So you can do the 50-50 kind of thing, right? So it may not be 50-50, it may be like odd man out in simple. You can put it that way. So what is the thing? Whenever you come across series, first thing you observe is whether it converges or diverges. One thing. Anyways, the question is also having a series here followed by optionals. I mean, 4 options involving the word converge and diverge. So the first option, first thing that should come to your mind is I want to compare whether it is diverging or converging. So what do you see here? Look at the consecutive numbers, one after the other. 1 by root 2, 1 by root 3. Their values, you compare it. 1 by root 2 is higher, or 1 by root 2 is higher than 1 by root 3, or 1 by root 3 is higher than 1 by root 4. So if you look at the terms there, one after the other, all the values immediate next, n plus 1 otherwise, is greater, smaller than n previous value. So this in the series, the value is keep on decreasing. When the series values, individual values, terms decreasing, we call them as converging series. So obviously all answers should be converging. So there is one option D, Sn diverges. So that is ruled out. Answer cannot be D. It should be either A, B, C. Okay. Next, let us do it. There may be, I had told you just previously that for each and every series, there are some strategy tricks to calculate the sum. Sn stands for sum of it, right? So you have to add all of that. So there will be some strategy to do the calculation, and there will be equation. You may not be able to remember all possible equations and strategy. So you will have to work out with simple concept. What do we do here? I do not, at this point, I do not remember any equation that may fit into this one series. I do not remember anything. How do I go about it? Simple strategy. Anyways, it is addition, right? So what you do is you take, let n is equal to some number. If you have enough time, you take n is equal to 10. If you don't have much time, less smaller number, n is equal to 5 or 6. So that many terms you take it, you can see that Sn is equal to 1 plus 1 by root 2 plus 1 by root 3 plus 1 by root 4 plus 1 by root 5. Use your calculator. You have online calculator available there. So using the online calculator, you will be calculating, and you can calculate it as 3.23. Okay. For your assumption of n is equal to 5, it is 3.23. Now you have 4 options there. The value of sum Sn is required in all 4 options. Okay. Remember, it is for the infinite series. N is infinite, very large number. So as you go for further down, the value will be different. It may not be same. So what do we do? Sn we have to calculate. They have given Sn converges to root n, S1 converges to exponential root n, ln root n, all those values they have given. Okay. Now in this actually I have a query, clarification. I have one more way of thinking in this. Anyways, based on the solution available, that I have seen elsewhere, I am giving you this option, this suggestion here. If that it is made bold there, don't worry about it. It is not made bold that way that you think it. Sn is equal to root 5. Put the value of n. You have taken n is equal to 5, right? If n was 5, what would have been Sn according to the option A? According to the option A, Sn converges to root n. So if n is equal to 5, it should converge to root 5, which is 2.24. Option B, Sn should have converged to ln of root n, which is ln of root 5. The answer for that is it should have been 0.8. Option C, it should have converged to exponential of root n. That is exponential of root 5. N is equal to 5 I have taken. So that would have been converged to 9.36. Which value is very, very close of all this, very, very close to our calculated value of Sn, which is 3.23. If you compare that, it would come to 2.24. 0.8 is far away, 9.36 is far away compared to 2.24. Okay. Now this closeness may increase. If you take n is equal to 10, n is equal to 20, but your time taken will be more to do the calculation. Okay. So you can try it out. So accordingly, answer is A for this. That is Sn converges to root n. Okay. So there may be a situation where it will be, this is my point of view. By chance, if you take a value of n, because I told you n is equal to 5, randomly I told you one value. If at all you have taken some value, say, I do not know, I not calculated, n is equal to 8, for example. It so happened that your answer A as well as B, both are equidistant, one on the positive side, one on the negative side. 3.23, right? Let me say 3.2. You got a 3.4 and 3. Option A, you got 3. Option B, you get 3.4. Now you will be in dilemma. Which one to choose? Okay, one of the easy solution is change the value of n and do the calculation. There must be some movement. There should be a movement away, moving away. The one which is more closer, you can choose it. Okay, so this is how it works. Fine. So let me go ahead with the number. I mean, other problem. Any chat is there? Okay, no. Yes, this is another kind of tricky question. It was a fill in the blanks kind of question. You may get as a choice based also, A, B, C, D also. The limit of the function e power minus 2t sine t as t tends to infinity is how much? Now, as student who has no much idea about, too much idea about this limits and continuity or integration kind of thing, you will have an issue, because you will find that sine has come, e power has come, looks complex. Don't think that way. Put t is equal to infinity, right? T tends to infinity means t tends to a large value. First thing is, who wins the race? There are two terms there, e power minus 2t. Another is sine t. Okay, so they are the two-way factors there. That is f of x and f1 of x and f2 of x. You're multiplying it. f1x multiplied by f2 of x. Okay, so first function is e power minus 2t. Second function is sine t. Now, if you observe infinity, put infinity there. Sine of infinity. Okay, t as t tends to infinity. For sine, it tends to a finite value. It tends to some finite term. Whereas minus t, e power minus t tends to very small value, minus infinity, right? E power minus infinity. So that f1x first function will tend to 0. Now, one thing you have to remember always, as a t tends to infinity, e power minus 2 means it is going by the double speed. Look at it. T is going with the speed of one particular speed, it is reaching infinity. E power minus 2t is reaching with the double speed, 2 times time, right? E power minus 2 times the time, t, variable t. So it is moving with a double speed. So who will reach faster? Whether t reaches faster or e power minus 2t reaches faster. That's what is the analysis. So e power minus 2t moving with a high speed, that is double the speed of the t, will be reaching 0 faster. So you multiply any variable with a 0, I mean any value, constant or variable with a 0 will be 0. Okay. Now, this is the basic understanding. Don't forget it. This particular concept, that is, whenever you come across exponential, the t tending to infinity, t tending to 0. Whenever you come across these two keywords, t tending to infinity, t tending to 0, use this logic. It should work there. Okay. Who moves faster? Who reaches the destination faster? Comparative. Okay. So which is faster, you should be able to identify. Remember, minus means lower side, positive means upper side. So that you don't forget it. So whatever may be the value of sine t, e power minus 2t reaches 0 quickly. So 0 into any other term, it will be 0 only. Then, yeah, here there is a question. I can put a poll for this. But what is the correct answer? Okay. 1 second. I'll launch one more poll. You can check it. Meanwhile, I'll explain. Before I launch the poll, I'll explain it to you. Which of the following curves represent the function y is equal to y-axis and x-axis? Two things are there. You may not be able to see the values there, but I'll give you the values so that you understand. The equation is y is equal to ln. All what lines you can see here are modulus. All right, all are modulus. Wherever you see modulus is there. Ln within the modulus, e power exponential term is there. E power, okay, the power term I'm telling you, sine x. Now in that sine x, x is modulus. The sine itself is modulus. Sine x, what you calculate, that itself is modulus. Okay, for all the modulus x less than 2 pi. Here x represents the abscissa, y represents the ordinate, y-axis, x-axis. There are 4 graphs given. Which of the 4 graphs represent this particular equation is the question. In the first graph, just to give you the clue, hint. Okay, so value, it moves with the particular shape, right? Mirror image, first as well as second. I think all are moving with slightly mirror image kind of thing, a particular pattern. In the first graph, y-axis point of view, I'm telling you, you have values above 0 as well as below 0, positive y-axis, negative y-axis. In the second graph, also you have positive and negative y-axis. In the graph number 3 and 4, both the graphs are positive side, no negative values in that. In the third graph, you observe, third graph or fourth graph? Yeah, third graph, you observe, okay, that I have to, 1 second, I'll zoom it a little bit if possible. Where it is going. Okay, if you see it, it is reaching 0 here and it is not reaching 0. Okay, so two options are there. Just think about it. I'll put a poll. So there are 4 graphs. One of them is correct. A and B both have negative y-axis. C and D both have positive y-axis. It is strategic answer. Okay. Then in that A and C, the center point, that is when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0. Whereas in B and D, when x is equal to 0, y is not 0. Okay, they are meeting at different points. Yeah, time is running out, 20 seconds. One second. So let's move on to the answer. Answer is C. Whether the correct answer I mentioned it as C or A, I think, yeah, all of you have, no, how many have answered? 4 have answered. Okay, 4 have answered B and C as 6 people. 6 people. Those who answered C is correct. I think when I was marking the correct one, I made a mistake there putting it A. Okay, anyways, C is the correct answer. But see, let us see how it is C. There are systematic way I have done one analysis. Okay, so the point here is I do not know how to solve this problem, so that I plot the graph. Then I think of this. There are modulus. When I say modulus, there must be something to do with positives and negatives for the answer. Okay, so that comes to my mind. This is what I meant by strategic planning. So when you look at certain thing in the question and look at the graph comparatively, there should be something related. So all the terms are within modulus. So sin x is always positive for all the value of x. You can see sin x is modulus, right? So this is sin x. Whatever may be the value of x, sin x is positive. Next, e power that sin x. This is a positive term. So it is e power x. It's a e power plus x. Always it is e power plus x, and that is again modulus. So e power plus x is also positive. Then ln of a term, okay, ln of some term, e power plus x, we get it. So ln of exponential term varies from ln1 to ln e. Okay, so that is ln e means e power 0. That sin x Value of sin x, whenever it is plus, it could go from whatever may be the x value, it will go from 0 to 1. You know that sin x, it goes from 0 to 1. The value of sin x, variation, a range. Actually, it is -1 to +1, sin x value, -1 to +1, but -1 to 0 is ruled out because there is modulus. So it moves from 0 to 1, right? The value of sin x can go from 0 to 1 and it is positive. So e power 0 is the one value, e power 1 is another range. Between that, you should have this e power. So whenever you have e power 0, then it is 1. Whenever it is e power 1, it will be e exponential. So that means ln of 1 and ln of e. Let me say that 0 to 1 equation. Okay, I will take a log here. So it is 0 to 1. The value would be 0 to 1. The actual value, that is y-axis value. The value of y varies from 0 to 1. If you observe carefully, it is going below 0. A is going below 0, not possible. B here, this is going below 0, not possible. Y-axis value going below 0. So only positive term I have to look into. So that ends up saying answer should be either C or D. Okay, so that is one thing. Now I have two options. 50-50 is done. I have two options. I have to end up with only one answer. What should I do? So I have to find out what is the major difference between the two. If I observe it carefully, the movement, how it is moving, it is one and the same. You can see here it is moving one and the same. The sequence, how it is moving, it is same. The y-axis maximum value, minimum value, 0 to 1. In the case of D also, it is 0 to 1. It is the same. There is no difference at all. But one major difference I observe is that it is intersecting at 0 here. The y-axis value is 0 at x is equal to 0. And y-axis value is 1 here. Y-axis value is 1 at x is equal to 0. So that means at x is equal to 0, if I am able to solve this equation, I'll get the solution. Okay, I'll be able to get the solution. So what do I do? At x is equal to 0, sin x is 0, exponential of sin x is 1. So ln of 1 is 0, which is this one. Ln of 1 is 0. I'll answer this. Okay, this is my answer. Now, if you come by another route, that is, if you observe that intersection, this is at x is equal to 0. If you want to try to find out, when x is equal to 0, sin x is 0, e power 0, that is 1, ln of 1 is 0. You will say that when x is equal to 0, y is 0. You can evaluate that without doing all this. Step number 1 to 5. You can say that when x is equal to 0, keep on substituting. Sin x is equal to 0. Sin of 0 is 1. E power 1 is sin x, that is sin 0 is 0. Then e power 0 is 1. Ln of 1 is 0. When you say ln of 1 is 0, that is y value is 0 for x is equal to 0. Again, you end up with answer A or B, because both here it is zeros. Another thing you can see is all are modulus. All the values should be positive. So this cannot be the correct answer. This can be the correct answer. So this is straight another way of thinking it. So the second way of thinking is, first way of thinking I have written it here. Second way of thinking is, I have straight away observed that zeros, there is some strategy. Zeros at intersection here. X-axis and y-axis intersection at x is equal to 0. There is some difference I can see. Okay. So here it is 0, here it is 0, and here it is 0, and here also it is 0. That is x-axis. Then what I'll do, I'll put x is equal to 0. Then I'll calculate. It is possible because sin 0 is 0, e power 0, 1, ln of 1, then y is equal to 0. Ln of 1 is 0, right? Y is equal to 0. So when I see y is equal to 0, I can see y is equal to 0 here. I can see y is equal to 0 over here, A, B. I can see y is equal to 0 here, C. That is also correct, but not here. So my option ends up with A, B, C. Okay, my option ends with the A, B, C option. But I see that all are positive. So all my y-axis should be positive only. With that concept, A cannot be the correct answer, B cannot be the correct answer, only C should be the answer. So this is mind calculation without doing any calculation on paper, with the way I have written step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, without doing it. In mind only, I'll do the calculation. Yes, it is possible. So I think, yeah, that's the end of it. So this is it from my side. So these are all simple problems that I have given you, like just to give you an idea how the problem appears. Okay, the questions, how will it appear? It's not that all complicated problem only you get. It looks complicated. You require some strategy. You have to bring it out so that you can identify how you can solve it. All right. Yeah. If you have any queries, you may ask. Any queries? Anybody? Tomorrow's class will be discussing on statistics. Okay, starting from statistics, all the topics. Basic statistics. I'll cover it over there. Conceptual, not full numerical. Conceptual. Okay, seems like there are no many queries. I think we can exit. Thank you. All of you can exit now.